Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Brenda Dettinger from BIOPAC, and I will be your moderator on today's webinar. And we're talking about the major signals, getting started with EDA, ECG, EMG, and respiration. And we're going to talk about how to record high quality data. This is a really important topic, especially for those of you who are just getting started. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll send each of you a link once the recording is processed. During the webinar, if you have questions, please submit them through the GoToWebinar control panel. That's how you communicate with me, your moderator, and I will pass as many questions on to our presenters. Now, before we get to introducing our presenters today, I have an announcement. We host a biennial human physiology training event, and we've released the 2025 dates. Actually, registration's open as of yesterday. It's going to be in July of 2025, so not this July, but next July at UC Santa Barbara in California, where our corporate headquarters is. And we'd love to have you join us. It's a great opportunity to get a hands-on experience with all the BIOPAC equipment, including the devices on today's webinar. Here's just a few of my favorite photos from the 2023 event. So save the date, July 14th, 2025, and meet us in California. Now, on to our presenter. We have a wonderful expert today. Alex Dimov is a product expert and the head of sales for Europe. He's taught over 125 workshops on the topic of physiological data acquisition and analysis and has been with BIOPAC for over 15 years. While at UC Santa Barbara, he was an instructor for the Advanced Training Institute for Virtual Reality and Social Psychology. Welcome, Alex.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. Brenda, everything's fine, right? Sound, everything?
Yep, everything sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter. Here you go.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so before we start, I'll just give you a bit of the plan for today. So I'll say a few words about BIOPAC, and then we'll jump into the various signals one by one: skin conductance, ectothermal activity, respiration, then some advice about biopotentials in general. That's what EXG stands for right here. Electrocardiogram, EMG, and facial EMG. So probably most of you already are familiar with BIOPAC, but if not, there are currently over 53,000 publications using BIOPAC equipment, and over 99% of the top universities in the world are using BIOPAC. And what we are providing for customers are synchronized solutions for recording data, presenting stimuli, and then also video and media capture. So that means we have things like virtual reality systems, complete systems with hardware, software support, different modalities for sensory stimulation, so electrical, temperature, olfactory, etc. Media synchronization with video cameras at participants and also with media that is being played to participants. We also support multiple devices recorded with the same platform and record virtually any kind of biopotential signals, sensor data like blood pressure, force, temperature, and then also eye tracking data from eye tracking glasses, eye tracking bars in virtual reality with HMDs. And finally, also we have very comprehensive solutions for brain optical imaging using functional near-infrared spectroscopy and various tools for data analysis. And then, of course, we have educational solutions. Now, what I will cover today applies both, of course, to educational platforms and research platforms, but we will be using the research platform for the hands-on examples. These are the signals we'll be looking at, and the idea for today's webinar is to concentrate on the most important guidelines when recording these signals, how to set up the participants well, how to get good data. There are many different equipment options. We're not going to be covering that in any sort of detail. We're concentrating on the practical advice. Okay, and so we'll be helped here by Swav, my colleague, who will be our participant today. So therefore, like we have to tell us apart, I have the BIOPAC shirt. He has our official participant shirt. Okay. So every now and then we'll be jumping to him, putting some sensors on, and then the rest of the time explaining how it works. So this picture that you see right now, that's actually one of the things I also want to mention. It's just like a flexible stand for a phone that I use to guide cables in the office so that they go straight to Swav. And you'll see a little bit later what I mean by that. So let's begin with skin conductance. And there are some steps we have already done. So we have prepared the skin, and really for skin conductance, actually all you should do is wash with lukewarm water. Okay, you cannot use soap, cannot use alcohol. The only exception is if it's very, very oily skin, a little bit of alcohol can help, but otherwise you should not use alcohol, and do not abrade the skin. Okay, for biopotential signals later on in the webinar, I'll probably repeat several times how important it is to abrade the skin. But for skin conductance, we do not abrade the skin. And you want to keep the hands warm so you can have good circulation. It's very hot here today. We'll have no problems keeping either of us warm. And now let's discuss electrode options. Okay. So right now, both I and Swav have skin conductance. Actually, we'll place skin conductance electrodes on him in a second. I'm using the EL507 skin conductance electrodes. Those are the ones here in the picture. Those are dry electrodes with a pretty strong adhesive. You see afterwards, I'll take them out after I record some data, so you see that they adhere very strongly. And those are good for children and adults. And then we have the EL512 electrodes, which are in the middle here. Those have a more gentle adhesive, and they're there for infants. They're better tolerated. They're also a little bit smaller, so they don't stick as well. So really just use them for infants. And then we have the EL509, which are basically exactly the same form factor as the EL507. Those are the ones we use with MRI recordings, so they're carbon fiber composition. And then you have the options for reusable electrodes that you can fill up with gel. So we are going to be sticking for our demonstrations to the disposable electrodes. And it's very important to always use isotonic gel. Like here in the picture, we have the bottle with isotonic gel. The regular gel that is used for other recordings like electrocardiogram, etc., has very high salt content, and it will actually distort the measurements, so we do not want to use that. We also have the research ring, which is on the bottom here, that requires no gel. You just put it on the finger. Now, how to apply gel to the electrodes? As I mentioned, the electrodes for skin conductance are dry. Okay, so we're looking here at the electrode for infants, but really it's the same for all of them. So as you see in the video, I'm adding gel from the bottle, and then I push down with the tip of the bottle, and I do this a few times. And this way I can get a lot of gel in. I don't want to have too much gel so it doesn't spread over the adhesive parts, but I also don't want to have just a little dot of gel. Okay, so this is a little bit of practice with setting up your electrodes to have just enough gel. Okay, so this is a process that you have to do just before the participant is ready for having the electrodes placed on them. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that in a second for SWAF. And I just want to, first of all, talk about locations, and then we'll go ahead and place the electrodes. Now, placing the electrodes on the fingers, like I have done here on the either the middle or the distal phalanges of the finger, I'll just grab the camera, is pretty much the ideal location, because as you can see here in these pictures, I can also tape around, and if you tape around, you can reduce the likelihood of having artifacts in the data. I mean, that's if you're gonna if you will have significant motion. Okay. Yeah, and just make sure that the wires are guided nicely towards the hand. Here we're using in this picture our wireless amplifier, but like right now we'll use. So you can see here, this is our smart amplifier, okay, like this one right here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and I'll show you first because I'm already instrumented. So I'll connect for a second to myself. This one, which one is it, EDA? This one, yeah. So I'll just show you what the signal looks like. We'll go ahead and connect SWAF, and we'll point another camera at him so we can see the signals a little bit better. All right, so let's just set up a new recording here. So I'll just go and set up a new recording with our MP160. Okay, and I'm using our smart amplifiers. So they just connect to the system and they're automatically recognized. Okay, so there's actually no setup. Just plug them to the front of the system and they show up. And I have all of these that we'll use today. But right now I'm concerned with the EDA. So anyway, we just hit calibrate. This performs a 0 calibration, 0-point calibration. And I'll take the leads here and connect them to the module. Okay, then I'll connect them to myself. And I will show this in a second. And I will show this in more detail when we have it all connected later on, but that's it. And then this is the amplifier, right? And this can connect to a Velcro strap, or it can connect to a piece of clothing. So we just start the recording now. Okay, and I'll hide all the other channels. So I'll just look at the skin conductance channel. Okay, and we'll set it to something like 5 seconds per division. And then we'll use adaptive auto-scaling so that we can automatically zoom in on the data. Okay. All right, so this is what skin conductance looks like. I can now go ahead and connect these to SWAF so you can see the setup process. So let's just stop for a second. Okay. So I'll just get a couple more electrodes here. Amplifier. This. So this is the electrode gel. I'll switch the camera. So now I will be doing this in front of SWAF. So okay, so now we see here SWAF in the main view, and also this arm that I have, which I'm using for the electrodes. So you can see how for the amplifiers they're being guided from the system like this. But I'll move it to the side now, so you can see more clearly what's going on. Okay, and so here we have the electrodes, right? And so we take them like this, and I will go ahead and place some gel inside. Okay. So we place some gel, but I will not even follow exactly the recommendations right now in the interest of time. So we'll just go ahead and put it on. And it's very important now when I'm putting on the electrodes, okay, to press from the outside, not where the gel was, but to apply pressure like around it. Otherwise, it's just going to come out. Okay. So we'll set up another one here. Okay. And this should feel wet. So can you feel like the gel?
Yeah, I do feel it.
Yeah. So you can also ask your participant. I mean, if they don't feel the gel, you probably didn't do a good job and you didn't put enough gel. And if it's coming out, like if you just put, like if you put too much gel, it's actually going to be coming out from the sides here. So this is probably it's probably quite fine.
So
Okay, so
I'm
we
going to
put,
jump in here, Alex. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to let everybody know that they can change their webcam so that they can enlarge and see it better. And the camera isn't totally focusing on the hand. So, but I think we can see pretty well. So,
yeah. It's looking for your face. Just if you put it close to your face, it will find it. Yeah. So we can see here, basically, like if you just move the hand in the middle of, there's, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So anyway, now that we have them on, we'll go ahead and connect the leads and let's get the amplifier somewhere close to you. Okay. So yeah, so we'll just go ahead and connect the leads here. Like snapped in. Okay. And we'll just attach them. And that's it. Okay, so we're not going to be starting the recording just yet because the electrodes have to stay on for a few minutes. So we can just kind of just relax for the moment. And I'll come back to our presentation over here. Okay. So I want to first of all say a few things here. You always want to use the non-dominant hand because the data quality is going to be much better because that hand is not used so often. And I'll change the camera for a second. That hand is not used as often as the dominant hand. And also, of course, your participant may want to be doing things with their dominant hand. And then the best options are the palmar surface of the hand. So as you can see, like these two eminences of the hand, the phalanges of the finger, and we can see it also in the diagram here, the ideal locations, and the instep of the foot also is very good. So highest concentration of sweat glands you have on the palms of your hands and on the instep of the foot. Okay. Now, if that doesn't work because they have to use their hands, their feet, then there are alternate locations, and we can share with you when we share that presentation a link to a paper that discusses alternate locations. For example, if we are conducting an experiment in virtual reality, then first of all, if we're just using one controller, then our non-dominant arm, it will remain free, so we can just use this arrangement. We can also use the research ring because it requires no electrode leads, no setup. However, if we have to use a controller in both hands, you can try this wrist placement. Okay, that works fairly well, and you can tape over again to keep things in place. Just use some of the tape one microporous tape that we have, and to prevent motion artifact. Okay, so we have to keep the electrodes on for at least 5 minutes so the gel can soak into the skin and we can get good quality data. Okay, so you can't just put them on and start recording. And then we need to typically we want to perform calibration, and depending on the sensor you're using, if you're using the SS57LA, which is used with the MP36 system, that one does not need calibration, but all the other ones need calibration. Okay, and we can do a 1-point calibration where we measure the zero offset, where we essentially when we have no skin conductance. So to do that, we'll just disconnect for a moment. I'm disconnecting from SWAF the EDA leads. So they're disconnected. I'll come back to the software and coming back here to the main screen. And what I'll do is I'll calibrate. So right here, you can see my mouse and I'll hit calibrate. So calibration is done. I'll reconnect the module. Okay, so module is reconnected, and we can start recording. Okay, so let's see what do we have here. So here's the signal from SWAV. Of course, everybody will have a different skin conductance level. Notice that I made some specific modifications to the display that help me see skin conductance better. So I clicked here on the scale here and I selected 5 seconds. Now, 5 seconds for the horizontal time scale division. And then on the vertical scale, I'm using adaptive scaling. And then I'm displaying no less than 1 microsiemens. These settings will generally work well for you. So you can just replicate these settings and you'll get very good view of the data. Now, you can also do a 2-point calibration. I'm just passing this information on so you know it is possible, but typically you don't have to do that. But you can, with a 100 kilo ohm resistor, essentially get like a 10 microsiemens value. This only works for the reusable electrodes. So I'm just going to leave this information in the PowerPoint and we'll put instructions there, but that's not something that has to be done. The 1-point calibration's fine in pretty much all cases. Now, this is the shape of a typical skin conductance response. We can see here it climbs very quickly, then decays. Now, SWAV is taking a deep breath, okay, and he's letting go, and we see a very dramatic skin conductance response, okay. So this is something that you should do once you connect your participants and they've had the electrodes on for a few minutes. Ask them to take a deep breath and hold it for a second. And that causes a general sympathetic discharge, and that will cause an increase in sweating, okay. This is how you know that, okay, the measurement was set up correctly. Now, there is an expected range for skin conductance, for the skin conductance level, typically between 2 and 20 microsiemens. That's the unit that we use for measuring skin conductance. We can see that we are in that range. So that's something to be aware of. I already mentioned the viewing guidelines, horizontal axis at 5 seconds per division. Make it easy to see the skin conductance data because it's a very slow data. You don't want to be zoomed in too much. And using adaptive scaling is also very helpful. Okay, so some people, and it could be as much as 10% of the population, are what we call non-responders. And here we can see what the data would look like from a non-responder. Generally, or somewhere between 2 microsiemens, or could be even a little bit above 2 microsiemens for their tonic level of skin conductance, but it's all relatively flat. Okay, and well, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just some people will be non-responders. And then also with our wireless modules, The resolution of the wireless module, as you can see on the top, is a little bit lower than the wired module. So the signal can look a bit blocky, but do not be concerned. After you apply a low pass filter at 1 Hertz, it will be looking identical to the wired signal. Now, when recording skin conductance with the research ring, you don't have to do any preparation, but the key thing is to use the correct size shim for the ring. So you can see here how the ring looks, and inside this insert here is the shim. So you have different sizes for different fingers. You have to get it right so it's a snug fit, and that's the main thing. When you're recording electrodermal activity and you're presenting some stimuli, you also want to have about 7 seconds at least in between them, because as you can see here, it takes a bit of time for the skin conductance response to go up and then to go down and then for the next one. So if you have an interval too closely spaced together, you'll be overlapping responses. And it may help to also have like a maximum skin conductance response, and you can do this by popping a balloon or some other dramatic intervention. And then you can later on during analysis take into account individual variability for participants, because then for all participants, you would have a response to the same kind of extreme stimulation. Just some notes. If you're using bioimpedance and skin conductance at the same time, you will want to be using the new generation smart amplifiers, EDA 100D, because they're isolated. Or otherwise, current will flow from the skin conductance module to the bioimpedance modules and vice versa. Or you can use one of the wireless bioinomatics amplifiers. There's also an option to have this special ground adapter. So because the system is going to be already grounded through the minus port of the skin conductance amplifier, if you want to have additional grounds, then you have to also attach this particular lead. So you can have a ground for your electrocardiogram, for your facial EMG, and you just have to use this adapter. And there's also an MRI version. We can also record EDA from multiple participants, and then each will be grounded separately, okay? And both for the wired and the wireless measurements. And if you're doing wireless, you just have to make sure there's a line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver pairs. If you want to record skin conductance from multiple body locations, then you should use, again, the smart amplifier, because it's fully isolated and no current will be flowing from one location to another. It will be just between the electrodes. Now, this is an important point. You should periodically clean the electrodes, snap connectors, these metallic parts, with a cotton swab and alcohol, or you'll have some dirt residue which will cause artifacts. So just do that every now and then. If you're using reusable electrodes, you can check for data quality by having a resistor go from one electrode to the next. So if you use a 100 kilo ohm resistor, that should give you a 10 microsiemens in the software. And that's how you can know if it's working correctly. We typically recommend 2000 Hertz for the sample rate for all the channels. And it's too high for EDA, but don't worry about it. You can always resample later. So just keep it at 2000 Hertz. And for the amplifiers that have settings for filters, make sure you're on DC mode. So do not use any high pass filters. Do not use any low pass filters. You can always apply those later if you need. So we have many different options for recording. I will just have them in this PowerPoint, which will be given to you later as a slide deck. So I will not go through any of these. I'm just letting you know that all this information that's seen here related to specific products will be shared with you. But that's all for the first section. Let's have our first poll.
All right, thanks, Alex. I will go ahead and launch our first poll, and I'll just, we've been busy over here answering a lot of questions. We have Tim Cook in the background, answering all these questions that are coming through. But one thing I wanted to mention that Matthew asked is, are these MRI compatible? And these specific ones are not, but we do have MRI compatible products in these same signals, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So there are specific MRI compatible amplifiers. They still don't stay in the actual MRI, but just outside in the control room. And then there's electrodes, carbon fiber. There are elites that are carbon fiber composition, and special filters and cabling that are used.
Okay, great. And then these electrodes from Yolanda was asking, she was asking if they're reusable, and these were not, but we do have reusable options, just so everyone knows.
Yes, we do have reusable options. The important thing with the reusable options is that you have to always wash them with water. The moment you're done, you have to clean them and also use a cotton swab to clean them out because they will otherwise dry out. And over time, the silver chloride coating of the electrode will degrade. That's why I suggested when you use reusable electrodes, every now and then to check with the resistor, are you still getting the expected value? So they save money, but if you don't clean them well and if you don't look after them, it will end up being more expensive than the disposables.
Okay, well, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and just pop open the results here for you. Lots of people interested currently recording these signals in their labs. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and we'll get to more questions later in the presentation. Aditi, I'll go ahead and ask him to show that stuff again later. Okay. All right. Back to you, Alex. Thanks.
Sounds good. All right. So in fact, right now, well, we'll just stop the recording here. What I want to show you, you can just watch the screen here. Watch my video. I'll take off my electrodes, and you can see that it takes a little bit of effort.
So, Alex, it's just not focusing on your hand. So if there's a way to get it to focus on your hand.
It's just, trying to get it focused.
Blurry.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that it's two of us here. So there we go. I think for a second you can see here. You see how there's bits and pieces left, okay? So that's what I mean when I say it's a very strong adhesive, okay? And you want it to be strong. You want the adhesive to be strong because otherwise they will not stay on, okay? So the electrodes will not stay on if it's not strong. But don't be concerned when little bits and pieces are left on your hand like this. You can just, pull them off. Okay, let's go to the next part, and we'll go ahead and record some respiration. So we'll instrument swab with respiration. So there are many different ways in which you can record respiration, but we're specifically going to concentrate on using a respiratory belt, which is based on a strain gauge, and using a thermistor, looking at temperature changes when inhaling and exhaling. So we're just looking at respiration rate. Okay, so let's just grab here's the respiration belt, and I'll change the cameras again. So I'll go over here to swap so we can look at the other camera. So swap can show you the belt here. Okay, so here the focus is a little bit easier with this camera. So you can see here how you have these hooks on both sides, and then you have a long belt that would go around. So we'll just go ahead and place this around swap. So like this. Okay. And you have to place it just under the armpits and above the nipples as far as the height where we place it. So something like this. Okay. So actually, let me just grab it like that. Okay, so hopefully it's okay. Now exhale completely. So it should be tight, but not too tight. Or is it too tight?
It's okay.
It's okay. Okay. So this is very important. When we're placing the belt, it has to be. It's okay. It's okay. It's like, it has to be. It has to be. It has to be tightened when the participant has exhaled completely. Okay. So and so we have this also written here in the instructions, so you have all these in writing as well. You can wear it over thin clothing, like right now there is just a shirt, but if it's a sweater, that's going to cause issues. So thin clothing is fine, thicker items of clothing not fine. Okay, so we tighten it when the person exhales. Now let's go ahead and go to our setup here, and we'll collapse the EDA and go to the respiration and fire it up. And then, okay, so here we have our respiration signal. Now I'll ask Swav to just breathe deeply. Okay, so you can see here what this would look like. And now can you just do like shallow breathing? So now we can see it's a different pattern. And finally, let's do a couple of other things. Can you hold your breath? And now can you just talk?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Are you enjoying the workshop?
Okay, so there are distinct patterns when somebody is talking, when somebody is holding their breath, and when they're just breathing normally. And you should practice to identify these patterns. Okay, so here we see examples of breath holding, deep breathing, and shallow breathing. Now we see this in our PowerPoint presentation. And then, of course, we just saw that talking is a little bit trickier, and it may look like breath holding at times. And very important consideration, because I saw from the poll that a lot of people who are watching today want to do both electrocardiogram and respiration. So if you're doing heart rate variability and wanting to use RSA, respiratory sinus arrhythmia time domain measurements, where you need both the respiration and the ECG, be aware of talking participants, right? Now let's show another measurement, which is done with a thermistor, because the belt can slip over time. So if Swab is moving around much, like he's sitting down now, but let's say that he's walking around, maybe doing some exercise, over time the belt will probably slip, okay? And then you need a better solution that is more resistant to movement, and that's where the thermistor comes in. So this is the amplifier for skin conductance. Again, all these are available in wired and wireless versions. So we're just using the wired versions right now. And so here we have a thermistor, so we can see it's like it's a very, very small thermistor. We'll go ahead and touch the thermistor, give it some extra length here. Okay, and as you can see in the illustration, it's very, very helpful to make a little loop. Oops. Okay, this one is a little bit, sensor is a little bit distorted from being inside in one position for too long, but let's just see what we're gonna get here in the recording. So now we'll change over to our skin temperature module, start recording. And so can you start breathing in and out? So now here we can see that the temperature signal is going up and down. And we'll give it a second here so we can auto scale. Okay, so this pattern is like the respiratory pattern, but now it's just the temperature change from inhaling and exhaling. So these are the two most common ways of measuring respiration in the lab. And let me just switch over the camera for a second. Okay. So really this option with the thermistor can be a little bit invasive, okay? But depending on what the experiment is, maybe they're in virtual reality and it doesn't matter because you just guide it around the head-mounted display, or they're just sitting in front of a computer, then it's okay. This will work, and it's more resistant to motion artifacts. So that's really it about respiration. Respiration belt or skin or the thermistor are fairly easy to place. Let me just remove it so you don't have this on you. Okay, yeah. Okay, so then let's go on and discuss some general guidelines for recording biopotential signals. So electrocardiogram, electromyogram, these are biopotential signals, essentially all the EXG. So you can think about electrogastrogram, electrooculogram, all these signals where we're putting electrodes on the person and we're measuring some voltages. Abrading the skin is absolutely critical for all of these. And we have two different options. We have what I'm holding here is the LPrep, okay, and this is an abrasive gel which will remove the top layer of the skin, and the LPad, which are abrasive pads that will do the same. Now, when you're recording facial EMG, you definitely want to use the LPrep because it's more gentle. But for regular EMG, for electrocardiogram, you can use the LPad, the abrasive pad. The goal is to reduce the impedance so we can get a better recording. So this is something where the research assistants are usually a little bit hesitant to do it. They don't do it enough, and then as a result, you end up with noisy recordings. So abrade thoroughly. Okay, don't make the skin go red, but the abrasive pads. Okay, I'll bring an abrasive pad next to the camera. Okay, so here is an abrasive pad like this. Okay, this is what it looks like now, and I'll abrade my skin. Okay. And you may not be able to see it too well in the camera, but it's actually changed. It actually shows some skin flakes on top of it. So this is how you know you've done a decent job at abrading the skin. Okay. So this is a very important step. And your electrodes, the ones for skin conductance, those were not pre-gelled, but the electrodes for recording biopotential signals, almost all of them are pre-gelled. Once you open up those packages, you have to seal them again after use, put them in a vacuum bag. So if we look, for instance, at this is the EO504 package, it does have over here a way to seal it again. And if you don't seal these electrode packages, they will dry out. The gels will dry out, they're water-based, and they'll dry out. Now, certain electrode types, the EO504 and the EO513, use hydrogels. So it's a solid gel, and they're individually packaged. Okay, so we see here, I'll just bring one out of the box. Okay, so it has its own packaging, so it's a bit more resistant to drying out. And these electrodes are cloth based, so they will conform better to the surface of the body. So the EO504, the EO513, if you put it on a bone or something like that, it will be more comfortable. The EO503, for instance, which is one of our most often used electrodes, that one has the advantage that you can actually revive it if it dries out. You can put gel on it, the same way that I put gel on the skin conductance electrodes. Okay, now some people have sensitive skin, and in that case, you can use the infant electrodes, the EO512, and you can put gel 104. The gel 104 is salt-free and chloride-free conductive gel. And if you have an allergy or sensitive skin, this is the one you want to use combined with the infant electrodes. It's also incidentally the one we recommend for electrical stimulation. Now, some other important rules to follow when you're setting up for biopotentials. If you look at this picture here, you'll see the electrode leads, okay? But then you also see a loop, and there's tape over the loop. Now, especially with some of the longer electrodes, this is very helpful, because if somebody pulls on this electrode lead, and it will happen, then you will not get artifacts in the data, and the electrode leads will stay in place. So make this loop and tape over it. You don't have to do this with the shorter electrodes, like the ones with the biopneumatics, like these guys. Like, they're very short as it is. Like, these electrodes are very short, so you don't need to make a loop. But with the longer electrodes, you do. And also, and we've done this with Swav for the ECG recording. I'll ask Swav to show just under his shirt, and I'll change the camera so we can see this from up close here. Okay, so we can see here, okay, that he has tape everywhere. So there is tape that is over the electrode, like these two pieces of tape actually are helping to keep the electrode even more steadily adhered to the skin. And then there's also tape over the electrode lead. Okay, thank you, Swav. So this is super helpful. It will help a lot with motion artifacts or not getting motion artifacts. So tape is your friend. Like, put as much tape as you can. And this microporous tape, it generally doesn't remove hairs. It's pretty gentle. Okay. Again, if you have electrodes that have dried out, you can, unless they're hydrogel electrodes, you can revive them by adding gel to the electrodes. And I'll repeat this again. Clean the connectors every now and then with alcohol and a cotton swab, so that you don't get random noise artifacts in your data. Keep the electrodes on for 5 minutes, and use the electrode checker so we can check the impedance. So let's use that right now. So you can see here, if I press on the electrode checker, it will show a value that will give us an indication of the current impedance reading. Okay, so I'll come over to top again, and we'll zoom in a little more here so I can So I've just taken here this from his ECG electrodes, and I'll connect it. Okay, so you can see the electrode checker here, and you can see here different codes. So this yellow light means we are somewhere between 10 and 20 kilo ohms between two of the electrodes. Okay, we're getting a reading for another one. So we have three different electrodes, plus, minus, and a ground. So I can check the impedance level between all of these connectors. Okay, so because it's really hot here, our hands are a little bit sweaty, so I'll just attach it back in place. Okay, so we're connecting swap back to the ECG electrodes, and I'll keep the camera on swap right now. So you want to make sure that you get under 10 kilo ohms. That will give you the best signal quality. You don't do the impedance checking for skin conductance, and for facial EMG and EEG, you should try to get to even under 5 kilo ohms. Okay, now a very good tool that we have in the software, and I'll fire up the electrocardiogram first from SWAP. So this is a lead 2 configuration that we're recording right now. Another great tool in our software is the spectrum analyzer palette. So the spectrum analyzer palette can show us if we have any sort of big peak at 50 or 60 hertz. So we can have a look here. I mean, it looks pretty good. We don't really have anything going on here. But if we have noise, we would see a big spike at the line noise, depending if it's 50 or 60 hertz in your country. So this spectrum analyzer for EMG, ECG, EEG, all of those signals, it will allow you to spot problems in the data. Okay. All right, let's have our next poll at this point.
All right, thanks, Alex. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. So now we're curious what signals you're planning to add. We already learned what signals you've already added. Okay, so now we had a couple of questions about how many amplifiers come with the system, and you can add on. It's completely modular. If you want to switch your camera, Alex, you can go ahead and do that, and then
yeah. So really, it's
a little bit.
Yeah, you can have any number of amplifiers. So if you're using the MP160 system, you have up to 16 channels. But actually, you can have different units connected to the same computer, thus increasing the channel count. Yeah, and then the MP36 system already comes with 4 universal amplifiers, and those can be used for different signals.
And then we have a student lab system as well that uses similar types of things, not these exact leads and amplifiers, but we do offer class sets as well, just so you know, Yolanda.
Right,
Okay.
so that's the MP36 system basically, which we have in either research flavors or educational flavors. Yeah.
Okay. Now go ahead and share the results of the poll here. Looks like it's a third to almost a half across the board. Thanks all for participating, and back to you, Alex.
Okay, so the most typical way to record electrocardiogram is to use a lead 2 configuration where the minus is on the upper right clavicle, and then the plus electrode is on the lower left rib, and then we have the ground at the upper clavicle. This is how SWAP is instrumented right now, and we can see here that his ECG looks very clean. I mean, he's just sitting in a chair. However, your ECG should also be just as good if it's not then you probably did not abrade the skin well enough. Probably the electrodes did not have enough gel. You should not be satisfied with data that does not look very, very clean. It should always be clean, because we know that we can always get very clean data. Now, if there will be major movement, and if it's an exercise experiment, then you can use two different ECG modules for two different vectors. Okay, because you can measure different vectors in the heart and avoid muscle artifact. Here we can see a comparison between rest and exercise for the same participant. And the difference is not so dramatic. The R peak is always there. So you should always do all this taping up that we showed you previously. Tape a lot, do all these steps. You'll get very clean data even during exercise. So in fact, let's ask Swab to just, I'll give you a bit of extra length over here. So Swab's just going to, can you stand up? Yeah, so Swab is like standing up now, and so you can maybe you can, yeah. So he's standing, like, see, he's standing up. He's like jogging in place. He's moving quite a bit. The data remains very good. So thank you, Swab. It's very hot. I'm not going to ask him to do a lot of exercise, but you can literally run around and it will be very good data. Okay. Now, for some participants, they don't want to, you can't record from the lower left rib. So you can use another vector. You can go in the lead one configuration. Okay, so you can just use the right clavicle for the minus and the plus for the left clavicle, and ground and the mastoid, and that will still give you a good R peak. Another option for ECG is using the research ring. And so if you're using the research ring and you press the contacts of the ring against your chest, so just contralateral to the hand with the ring, this is what you get. This is a signal on the top from the ring at rest, so you can't really be moving about. You're literally completely at rest. And then on the bottom is the filtered signal. So the limitation is you can't move around. And then from the ring, you can move around if you use the new ECG ring, which actually has a dedicated lead that's attached to the ring. So it would go from the finger and it will attach across the heart. So still much better than 3 electrodes in a traditional setup. Okay, let's do our next poll and then we'll finish off with EMG.
Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and show this poll, but I want to let everybody know that we can host workshops at your site in your regional area, and you can either host or attend a workshop, and we'll bring the equipment to you and take you step by step. It's much more comprehensive than a 1 hour plus webinar. So if this is something that you're interested in, let us know. Your regional representative will reach out to you about hosting or attending. And we'd love to come to your area with whatever device you'd like to see, and get a group together and half day, full day type of workshop. So it looks like we are getting some interest there. I'll give you another 20 seconds to answer before we close this poll. Lots of people interested in attending a 1 day workshop and even hosting a 1 day workshop, with fewer people interested in the 3 day workshop, but still quite a few people interested. So thanks all for participating. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll, and back to you, Alex.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the EMG guidelines for setting up the participant are really not that different from ECG. It's just a question of where you're going to place the electrodes, and you just have to have the plus and the minus electrodes over the muscle, and the ground can be anywhere. So we always have 1 ground per participant. This means if you have 4 muscles you're recording from, you have plus and minus electrodes on those 4 muscles, and only in one place, only one location in the body do you need the ground. That's with the wired amplifiers. With the wireless amplifiers, you need a ground for every wireless module. Here we can see a diagram for one placement of electrodes for EMG on the hand. Okay, and then again, of course, now when we move to facial EMG, the key thing is to clean the skin very well. Like, you cannot have any makeup, no jewelry should be worn, and abrasion is with the L prep. So I'll show a short video clip in a second about how to set it up, and we'll just place a couple of electrodes with swab for the zygomaticus muscle, which is corrugator. The corrugator and zygomaticus muscles are very commonly recorded from. When you record facial EMG, you have to use 4 mm diameter electrodes. That's recommended. And again, you have disposable and reusable options. Okay, so let's look at this video clip. Now, you can see how I'm smiling so that I can identify where the zygomaticus is, and then frowning so I can identify where the corrugator is. And then we use the L prep to abrade. Okay, so we abrade the skin on the locations where the electrodes will be placed, and then you have to wipe it down. If you don't, the stickers of the electrodes will not stick. And then we use the facial electrodes, the EL513 electrodes. They're individually packaged in a little bag. And then we can also use the adhesive stickers, the AD204, to limit the contact area. So now it's 4 mm. And then they're double-sided, so now they're adhesive on both sides. And we can place these over the zygomaticus. Okay, and then we'll also place another one for the ground. So we have some electrodes here that, let me just get them open. So it's like this is the EL513. It's a brand new package. Okay, so we'll just grab some electrodes. Okay, we will not, at this point, we will not be doing the other steps. So here I'll swap some of the L prep, and I'll just change the camera so you can see. By the way, ECG is going on all along. We're recording ECG, so just a second. You actually can see swap just fine from this camera. So I'll just move a bit to the side. Okay, and okay, well, yeah, I'll just switch it over here. Okay, all right. So now that you have abraded the skin, I'll give you a napkin to wipe down. Okay. So you should probably can feel where it is. Okay, let me just have a look. Okay. Okay, so we'll place one electrode here. And we'll place. You can smile again. Okay. You can let go. So we can, when he's smiling, we can see where the muscle is. The ground can be anywhere. You can put it on the mastoid or somewhere else. But since he was abrading somewhere right here, I'll just put the ground nearby, like this. Okay. And now grab some leads for the facial EMG. Okay, so here we have leads for the facial EMG. We can even use the ground. We can actually use the ground from the electrocardiogram. So I'll actually connect just 2 of these electrodes right now. So so we're connecting the facial EMG amplifier. It's the facial EMG amplifier. And then okay, and then we've clipped it on, so we're good to go. Now let's just have a look at our facial EMG channel. It's like the one right here. Okay, and Let me change the gain a little bit. Sorry, change the amplification. Get a smile. Okay, there you go. Smile again, just seconds. Okay, let's connect the different lead here. We'll get a proper ground. So here's our ground connector, plus, minus. All right, so Swaf, can you smile? And then then stop, and then smile again. So we can see here the signals. It's all a matter of how much we're zoomed in. Okay, and then just relax. Okay, we can now again also use our spectrum analyzer palette and change over to the facial EMG channel. So now we can see the frequency distribution here. And we can see how it's changing when he's smiling and then when he's not smiling. Okay. And then if we auto scale, so can you smile one more time? Okay, we can see now zoomed in the response here. And thank you. Yeah. Okay, so recording facial EMG is as simple as that. Of course, we skipped one very important part, and that's giving a little bit of extra time. And then 5 to 10 minutes after we place the electrodes. And then also the electrode checker. You have to always be using the electrode checker. Okay, so check the impedances, make sure you go down under 5 kilo ohms ideally. And then with the spectrum analyzer, you can also look for artifacts, so peaks around 50 or 60 hertz, which we don't have here. And just as a recommendation for some of you who may be interested in the baseline, not so much the big responses, then what you can do is use our regular C series amplifiers, where you can increase the gain quite a bit. So instead of looking at the responses, if you want to look at the baseline activity of the muscles at a great amplitude, you can use a higher gain with those amplifiers to see what's there. Okay, that's a lot of information delivered very, very quickly, and it's a lot of things, but we wanted to do this webinar so that information on all of these very common signals is present in the very same place. I hope that this has been useful. Let's see what questions you have.
Okay, there's been a lot of questions that Tim has been answering along the way, so we don't really have a ton more questions, but I will ask you to just, can you show how much gel you put on that EDA electrode? Again, the camera was, it was kind of blurry, and I had a question about that, if you wouldn't mind just showing that.
Yeah,
as a
so I'll
close-up.
switch to the other camera because it does a little bit better with that kind of thing. So I'll just come over here. So hopefully, Swap, if you just yeah, if you go out of the way, then it will center probably on this. Okay, so now you should see the electrode pretty well, right?
Pretty well, yeah. It's getting
Okay,
more.
so I'll just even do it like this. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put some gel. Okay, and then you'll see how much. So
Yeah, that's good. We can see it better now. Thank you.
okay, so this is you press it down a little bit, okay, and then add a little bit more. So like this, and you can see it from the side. It's not all that much gel, like, because if you put any more than this, it will spread out and it will destroy your sticker, like all this adhesive. And I'm just gonna like press it down here. So I'll just press it down, and I'm never pressing in the middle. I'm pressing on the outsides like this, okay? Because if I press in the middle first, the gel will just squirt out, no matter how much it is, and it will not stick. So I'm just kind of going around, and that's it. So this is fixed, and it feels wet. So it's just a dab of gel, but it's not a precise science. You have to experiment with yourself. There's really no way around that. So you have to perform several recordings on yourself. You will get a sense for the amount of gel.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just reading all these questions here. Do you still have the finger electrodes on? Because Grace asked about which way does the red and the black wires,
It doesn't
electrode
matter.
wires?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So yeah, it doesn't matter which one is red, which one is black. It's just current being passed from one to the other. So there's doesn't matter.
Okay, and then Matthew asked about washing hands for EDA. Should it just be gently dried, no rubbing?
Well, yeah, just the main thing is not to use soap. Okay, so just water, just water,
Okay, great. And you're
and
welcome.
lukewarm water.
Lots of people saying thank you.
Yeah, the official guidelines paper states explicitly just lukewarm water. You don't want cold water.
Okay, and then does the conductance gel we use for EDA or ECG, is it the same for EEG, or is that a different kind of gel?
It's a different kind of gel, and again for EEG, it's the gel is like different composition than the ones that are used for, let's say, electrocardiogram. So for EEG, once again, it's important to have the right composition.
Okay, and I know a lot of our signals come in both wired and wireless. Does facial EMG come in wireless as well?
Yeah, so uh, these are the wireless modules, okay? So this one, for instance, is ECG and respiration. So there's modules for 2 channels with EMG, so you can wear it around your head like this, and the electrode leads will come out. So you can have a facial EMG module wireless.
Okay, and then are there different recommendations for skin to conductancy in the MRI, or are they the same or similar, or is that a whole nother webinar?
Yeah, they are the same, but like it's in the MRI, sometimes the room is cold, and this question of keeping your hands warm, keeping your body warm, is even more important. Like you got to make sure that the participant is warm, or they may not even get skin conductance response. They may shut down circulation largely to the hands. So you got to keep them warm, and also the range may be a little bit different than it is. Um, like it's usually the value is a little bit higher when you do get them. Like they will not be exactly the same as the typical spin conductance values. Like with the research ring, they'll be very low. With the regular amplifiers, they will be what you'd expect, and in the MRI, they may be a bit exaggerated.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I know that was a lot of questions that we tried to answer both online. If there was something that we didn't get to, I'm going to show you how to reach out to your your local representative. But before we do, I just want to show you how to reach out to your local reps. So you can go on any page of our biopac.com website. You can contact us up here, or you can scroll down on the bottom of the website. Every page you can contact your local representative. You just complete this form, and immediately emails them wherever you are in the world. So there's regional reps, and they'll get back to you usually within 24 hours. Unless they're on vacation. And if they are on vacation, somebody else will reach out to you. Also, we have our list of webinars here and the webinars page. There's over 100 webinars, including webinars on analysis. And a few people asked about analytical webinars. And so take a look at this acknowledge tips and tricks section to see those. And then if you scroll down, you'll see lots of other webinars on all kinds of topics, and you're welcome to watch those at your convenience anytime.
Yeah, all these topics that we covered today are also covered in great detail per signal, right? So, yeah.
Okay, and then Yolanda is asking about workshops. So if you'd like to host or attend a workshop, you can click this link right here in the deck or just go to that part of our website. Oh yeah, we have a resources tab in the website as well, and that's where you can find that information. And then of course we have our 4T training coming up in July of 2025. So if you'd like to come out to California with your team, you're more than welcome to join us and get some hands-on experience. But if you'd like to meet with us before then, certainly reach out to your representative and then either host or attend a workshop or just talk to your representative about the information that you need to see, the devices that you need to see, and any additional information that you'd like to have. Okay, let me get back into my deck here. So Alex, thank you. Slav, thank you for being a subject. And Tim, thank you for answering all those questions in the background. I just have some closing comments here. Today's webinar was recorded. We'll email you a link to the recording, the slides, and the Q&A document. When you close the webinar window, you'll see a survey. Please complete that so we have your feedback and ideas. And of course, visit biopac.com for any additional references. We have lots of resources there, including screencasts on specific features and analysis tools, application notes with step-by-step instructions, webinars, and upcoming events are listed in our calendar as well. Anything else before we conclude, Alex?
No, thank you all for attending, and I hope it was helpful.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for attending. Thanks for all the questions, and we will see you at the next webinar or at an event. So come by and say hi to us if you do see us at an event. And lots of hand clapping here. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. All right, this concludes today's webinar. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.